This week on Clear as Mud.
Hey, welcome in. My name is Jeff Patterson, and this is my pottery channel. It's Clear as Mud. Today we're going to look at something that's near and dear to my heart. And the reason I'm bringing this to you is because I've been doing this since I was 12, and I'm 70 now. And the idea of being able to throw now and not be in pain is very attractive to me. But I didn't think about it when I was younger. I didn't think about it when I was starting out. And I can't do it anymore. I just have to be very cautious about how I throw. At the Pottery Center where I run in here in Green Valley, we have one wheel because it's a senior pottery center, and I have to sit and throw at that potter's wheel, and I can only do it for maybe 10 or 15 minutes at a time. Then I got to get up and move around, and I'm hurting. And that's what I'm trying to avoid for you, are these things that you do in making pottery, especially if you're going to consider doing it for a professional living. If you're looking at this in a long-term way, you really need to consider early in your career taking care of yourself physically so that you can continue on, and when you get to be my age, you can still be throwing. It'd be nice at 70 to have a job that you can continue to do at 70 and make some additional income and do something that you enjoy and that you love. So throwing standing up is key to that. And I'm going to show you tips and techniques for getting your wheel up in the air, and also how to adjust your pedal, and also the surface that you're standing on. So we're going to look at all three of those. And I think it's really worthwhile. I can't encourage you enough to think about it. Do not procrastinate and start throwing standing up. My other pet peeve, after doing this since I was 12, you do the math on that, how many 52, 53 years of making pottery, is that I now have contact dermatitis from working with clay, especially reprocessed clay that has skin oils and hand oils in it and has kind of the pottery funk to it. If it gets on my arms and I let it get dry, it cracks the skin, opens the skin, puts bacteria in the skin, and I get poison oak from doing that all up and down my arms, and like poison oak, it spreads. So if I got clay on my knees from sitting and throwing, then that will dry out and I'll have contact dermatitis down there as well. So what I use is mineral oil. This is Signature brand, Safeway. They're not paying me, they're not, but I drill a little tiny hole in the top of it, I sprinkle that on my hands, and I can rub that all up and down my arms. It does something that a barrier cream will do, but it also softens your skin like a barrier cream won't. But it seals up your pores, it seals up the cracks, keeps your skin from cracking, keeps it soft, and it's very, very cheap, and it stays on all day long. So you only have to do one application. You can wash your hands and wash your arms, and it's gonna continue to work. Sometimes if I'm really doing a lot of glaze work and I'm washing my hands and stuff, I will reapply. But for the most part, one application in the morning, if I can remember to do it before I touch the clay, I'm golden. If I don't, I'm gonna get poison oak. And so if you're having trouble with allergies from clay, or any of your students are, or any of the people in your classes and where you're learning to throw pottery, you're having trouble, give them that tip, because it really does work for me, and it's a very cheap solution. Okay, so I'm going to take some time, I'm going to adjust the camera, and we're going to look at a stand that I purchased. I got it secondhand. It's a stand that's designed for throwing standing up, putting your potter's wheel on it. It's a Robert Brent stand. They don't sell them like this one anymore. This is their prototype from about 20 years ago. I have a 1980 Robert Brent wheel, so this used to go with it. They sell for about $400 new now for a stand, and that's a lot of money. So I'm going to show you options that'll get you there for scrap or for free, basically, if you want. But this is in competition. This stand is in competition, and I'm going to say it right now, and I'm going to try and show a picture of it right now. Here. Of a scissor table. This scissor table is sold by Harbor Freight, and it's about half the price of this stand, and it allows you to throw standing up, but also it allows you to adjust the scissor table so it goes down and up when your pieces get bigger and smaller. And I threw on a scissor table for years, and that's because I was throwing big pots. I was throwing 20, 30 inch pots on a potter's wheel, and I needed that wheel to go down while I was standing. And so it's what I would choose, and it's what I would recommend for you over this stand. But let's look at this stand. Maybe you've got pipe in your yard, you got a welder dad or whatever, and you can come up with a cheap version of this. All right. Okay, so here's this stand. This thing is designed to put the potter's wheel in each of these retaining cups on the top. So that's where you put the 3 legs of your potter's wheel. This is adjustable, so you can move this in and out. Only so much, only a couple of inches, and that's probably all you need for any basic potter's wheel. It's extending out on the sides instead of going straight down to give you more stability so that your potter's wheel doesn't tip in this tripod configuration. And it has these legs, and I've marked these legs. Let me come up close to the camera so you can see this. I've marked these legs with the inches starting from the bottom up so that I can put them into the bottom of the stand and make sure that I'm in the ballpark for level. So let's do that real quick. So I'm going to put this in there at about 5 inches, and I'm not going to ask you to watch the whole thing. So when I get this done, we'll come back. So there it is. I've set it for 6 inches up on the bottom, and that means my wheel head would be above that, would be at 20 inches. And that's a little low for me. I prefer my wheel head to be at belt height, like right there. So I'm going to want it to be 24 inches, so I can raise it up and down as much as I want to. But it's adjustable that way, and that's kind of cool. It's adjustable for your wheel this way and that way, and it's a really pretty stable platform. But it's expensive, man. $400, expensive for what it is. So let's go look at what I'm setting up in my studio and see if that might work for you. Okay, let's look at my configuration. What I have here is I have a foam pad on the floor that I stand on. You guys are going to get tired of hearing about my yard sales and recycling, dumpster diving, but I pulled about 100 square feet of this stuff out of a dumpster, and it's the stuff that goes underneath a hardwood floor in a gymnasium. And man, it's nice. It's cushy, and it allows my heels to dig in. I like it barefoot. I love to throw barefoot. It's got a nice feel. It fills up my arch, and it's important. It's important to have that support underneath you. So one of the things about throwing that's kind of a myth is that you have to anchor your arms into your knees to create leverage. And there are a couple of things that happen with throwing standing up that are really cool that make that not necessary. But also, I like to propose to my beginning students that it's a bit of a myth, because as you're anchored down and you're throwing down here, as your pot gets bigger, you're going to be up here and nothing's going to be anchored, and you're still throwing. Anchoring when centering is not always necessary, and you can also center by using a board or something like that and pushing against it. But one of the great things about centering and throwing on a wheel standing up is that you can put your hands behind and lean back a little bit. And what that really does is that puts a lot of pressure on that clay instantly, and your wrists are straight. So if you want to avoid carpal tunnel, you're going to want straight wrists. So that's being able to just lean back and center and use your body weight is fabulous. You don't get that. You can try it sitting down, but you don't really get it much sitting down. Okay, so I am controlling my knee here, and I'm not even really having to think about it. So here I am with my knee, and I'm able to make any kind of adjustments. I'm able to go up to centering speed or all the way back to trimming speed fairly easily. And both of my feet are flat on the floor. That's why it's important to use your knee instead of keeping your pedal on the ground. If you keep your pedal on the ground, you're going to be standing there like a stork, one-footed, and that is no good for your back. You want both feet on a cushy surface. Okay, so now I'm centering, getting my speed up. lining it up. Now you might recognize some of this throwing from my earlier videos, and if you're learning how to throw, I'd really recommend those videos as well. Try not to make any improvisations, just do what I'm asking you to do. You can do advanced stuff later on. Pushing in and going up. It's one pull. Pushing in and going up. Second pull. Oops, got a little twist in it. Went over the top. That's why you don't go over the top. Then we get a rib pull. In and up. Now all the tools go back where they're supposed to be. I'm not set up for throwing right now. I'm set up for this video. We'll chamois over the top, flare it out if you want it. Clean up the inside. And there you go. So you noticed while I was doing all that, nothing was being controlled other than with my knee. Completely possible to do. So again, I highly recommend it if you're thinking about throwing for a while, or you have a bad back, a tentative back as it is. There's nothing stopping you from throwing standing up. But the knee pedal is the big control. So let's look at a knee pedal here and let's modify it and see how that goes. Okay, so let's look at a couple of these. This is the foot pedal off my Brent wheel. My Brent is a 1980 model, so it's quite old. So there may be modifications that are happening on your new Brent wheel or your other wheels that are going to be different than this. I also have a Bailey over here, and we're going to work with that a little bit. But I just want to show you the basics on this. What you're going to need to make this happen is some screwdrivers. You're going to need some rubber bands. I buy these rubber bands at Mahjong's ceramic supply. These are for molds to go around and hold a plaster mold together. They're relatively durable and inexpensive, and I like them more. I've tried inner tube. I like these better. And you're going to need some plywood. I'm using 3/4 inch. This is a piece. This pedal has been completed. I've been using it for years, so I'm just going to show you how it goes together. I cut the plywood, and I've tried it in a couple of different ways. You can see this line and these little notches that are here, so that I could run the rubber band with a bigger rubber band around the outside of the whole thing. That's one option for you that I would suggest is a good one, because it makes changing the rubber band easier. So what you're going to do is you have the bottom of your pedal, and it's got these 4 little posts on here that are rubber that you have in order to keep it from skidding across the floor. You're going to take those off. And you want to look at the screws that are in this. Take these down to the hardware store, where you can look at show the threaded pattern to one of the guys at the hardware store and have them figure out exactly what that is. And you want to buy screws of the same style with a little V-shaped head on them that have that depth, but also that have that depth. Let's see if I can get this into the camera. But have that depth, but also the 3/4 inch that you need to go through the board. So you want them to screw into the back of this, and you want them to go through the board. So you take all those little rubber jobs off, and I save them. What I've done with them in the past is pop this off, put them in a little plastic bag, so that I have them for the future. And then I've taken some tape and I've taped that inside the foot pedal, so it's there for in the future if I want to use it. It's not going anywhere, and it's not going to come down and mess around with the works that's in there. And then you put your back on. Now what you have to do is you can use this as a template for drilling holes in your plywood.
So take this and put it on there, and you can see the pencil line that goes around. Hopefully you can see that pencil line that goes around. You see the pencil line that goes around. I put that template on there and then marked my holes and drilled new holes. Now I can take this back and put it back on. I can take my board and put it on. I also countersunk, if you can see that, I countersunk where the screws are going to go in so they aren't sticking up. And now I can take these threaded screws that I bought, machine screws, and put them in there and screw them into the holes, the existing holes in the foot pedal. And that's the kind of the trick of this, is to be able to make those existing parts on the pedal work for you instead of having to recreate the wheel. So let me get this screwed on here and then I'll get back to you. Okay, now that we have that all screwed down, we can add our rubber band onto that, and that's where these notches come in place here. These little notches help keep the rubber band in the location, and it goes over the bottom of the pedal like so, and then hooks into those notches. Yeah, and now your pedal is controlled. Every time you push on it, it's going to go back, and it doesn't get any simpler than that, I'm afraid. Now, one of the things I have is all this texture on here, and so I've taken some sponge rubber and one of these smaller units and sponge rubber knee pad on there so that when I hit that with my knee, I'm not wearing my knee out on that thing all day long. Also, there are 4 holes in this, so I've got holes here on the corners where I can take screws and screw this into the wooden box below. Now, you may not have that. You may decide to buy a kit for the legs on your potter's wheel and have it stand. I know Brent sells one. I've thrown on those before. And there's one center one that's in the middle up here, and that's going to be the one that's going to have to work your pedal off of. So you may have to put some chocks on here, some half round things with some hose clamps that will go up and hook onto the pole somehow and make that work for you. You're going to have to look at the configuration of your wheel and decide how to do it. But the way I've done it is I have it up on a standard box. And with my standard box, it's easy to judge where my knee height is on the box, and I can just screw this to the box and I'm done. And then if I want to move it anywhere, I have to unscrew this from the box and package the potter's wheel up as one unit and take off with it. So that's basically it. I don't think it could be much more simple than that. Okay, this is a Bailey. It's not a horribly complicated machine, but each one of these pedals have their own specific problems that you're going to have to be creative around and find a way to answer. The hardest one I ever did was a Solner, and that was using a spring arrangement and a rebar with a tennis ball on it so I could control it with my hip. And I threw with that Solner for years. One of the things that happens with these Baileys is these are designed to be tightened up so you can set the wheel and leave it, take your foot off of it where you want it to be. And if you have any tension on these, it's not going to free float like that. And you need to loosen up these nuts on the side. But you're going to have to do that anyway in order to get inside this thing and make it work for you. So I'm taking all the bolts off of it, pulling the bolt out of the center, and now I can take it and open it up from the top. And as I do, there is easiest way is to show you. There is this little prong in there. The rheostat, or the controlling arm, goes through that, and when you move the pedal, it moves that arm up and down. So you're going to have to get in there somehow, which is what I had to do in figuring out how this thing works. You're going to have to get in there. I put a little hook on the inside of a piece of piece of wire here. So you move it out of the way. There you go. And I reached down there and lifted that lever up, and it's going to bend a little bit. I lifted it up, and then I was able to pull this out. When you look inside, this is the mechanism that's inside that moves with that lever and controls the speed. And I had to do all of that in order to get to the back of this and take these knobs off. Those are the floor knobs that are rubber floor knobs, and raise the thing off the floor and keep it from skidding around. And they are hooked on the inside with little nuts, and those nuts are going to have to come off. So let's get those off, and we'll move on here in a second. So I got a choice to make. What I have is I have 4 holes in the back that are going to take bolts. So I could go to the hardware store, I could take one of these with me, and I could buy bolts of the appropriate length to come into the box, but also to go through a 3/4 inch piece of plywood. The other option for me is just to come in and screw into the plywood from up above. And boy, that's so easy to do. I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't think it's worth the trip to the hardware store. Now that I look at it, I just have to find the right screws. Let me find the right screws and I'll get back to you. Okay, so in reassembling this thing, you're going to want to take your smaller rubber band. When you're buying these, buy a few of them, because keep the spares in a plastic bag in a shady area. They go bad. They're actually real rubber, and they really do go bad. So I'm going to slide this up on here past the screw holes, but fairly close, so I can bend it down and reassemble this thing. I'm going to get my screwdriver, which is on an extension, so that I can reach down inside this box and have a long screwdriver. And I've chosen 4 screws here out of my list of screws that are kind of a nice length. This one looks like it'll still go through the hole. You want to make sure that it's going to make it through the hole all the way and not be so big that it won't do that. And you want it to be of a length that's going to screw it down, but it's not going to go through the plywood. So I'm going to center this thing up. Now you may have some configuration on this, where you want this based on where your box is, right? So you may want it towards the top, you may want it towards the bottom. But so take it over and hold it up against your box or whatever it is that you're mounting to, and figure out where your knee is, so that you've got this kind of mounted with enough room to manipulate the fasteners, whether it's U-bolts that are up here or whether it's screws. And I'm just going to center that in there and screw it in place. I'm thinking about doing a giveaway with this thing, so this is a Bailey, and I don't know whether it would work. It's, you know, 3-wire system. I looked at it in contrast to the to my potter's wheel, and I don't know whether this wire configuration here would work on, and this rheostat would work on any potter's wheel. My suspicion is that it would. Anything except for and maybe even would work with a Solner. Okay, so now we're going to reassemble this thing. I'm going to pull this rubber band down and over the end of it, so I can bring it back over when I'm all done. And I'm going to remove all my nuts and bolts from the inside. And now this is the little tricky part for me, I suppose. I have to reassemble this thing and get that back over the top of that little spike that's in there. And if you're working with a Bailey, you'll get it. You'll understand exactly what it is I'm talking about. So I'm going to go in with my wire, pull that back up, and then I'm going to have to push it back down. There we go, I got it. So now I'm going to stick something in there like a dowel and push it back down again, because you bend it a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now it's time to put the bolt back in. Bolt has nylon bushing washers that go up against the metal, so they're the last ones on. It's got a standard washer, so you've got that nylon is acting kind of like a lubricant in between the metal. I'm trying to keep this all in frame. I can't stand it when YouTubers shoot stuff out of frame. It drives me crazy. It's even worse when I'm the YouTuber that does it. There we go. Helps to see what you're doing. Okay, so this nylon one goes against the frame. This is a squishable washer, so it's adjustable. Now you want this loose, right? You want it to be loose enough so that it functions well. You might even want to put a couple of drops of oil in there if you need it, but you want it to be loose enough that the rubber band is going to be able to bring it back. So don't tighten it down all the way. Leave it so it free flies in there. Then what you're going to want to do is grab that rubber band that's underneath there, and pull it out onto the top. Easier said than done. I wouldn't do it with pliers. I'd just be patient. You nick this rubber band, it's going to have a lot shorter service life than you want. These things last about 2 years. I get about 2 years out of these rubber bands. So there you go. You can see it's pushing and it's returning all by itself. That's pretty easy to do. So now with this, what you do is you'd take this back to the wheel and you'd drill 4 holes in it, or even 2 holes off to the side. That's like mine over there, and just screw that into the box. If you were going to use U-bolts, you're going to have to drill a couple of holes up here and a couple of holes in the bottom, and bring the U-bolt through. And then bolt it down. If you're mounting this on a center post, like on the one out there, you may end up having to have a larger sheet of plywood going out the side, and being able to screw in over here on the side and mount that onto it. So this is off-centered over where your knee is. It's gonna take a little bit of ingenuity on your part to do that, but that's basically it. You know, that's how you mount one of these things. And now I can always take this off. If I had bolts instead of the screws, that would make it easier to take off, because I could undo the bolts. Especially if I glued the bolts inside and left the nuts on the back, I could pop this off and it would be easier to do that, to replace this rubber band. So that's probably a design flaw on my part. I think if I had to do this again, I would do it that way. I would do it with bolts, epoxy the bolts inside so they don't fall out, and drill it through and countersink those nuts on the backside so it lays flat, and be able to just pop this off and put a new rubber band on it and pop it back down again without having to completely disassemble the pedal. That's a concept right there. So that would be something to think about. Okay, so if you're still with me, here's mud in your eye. Thanks for joining in. If you're interested in this Bailey pedal, you got a Bailey wheel, or you know somebody with a Bailey wheel, make a comment that you'd like to have it, and I'll send it to you. You're going to have to pay for shipping. We'll communicate either through my Instagram DM, which is It's Clear as Mud, or you can send me a note on YouTube, and I'll send this pedal to you. This is a used pedal. Came out of the shop that I work in, and it was working when I took it off. We just wanted some that were a little bit easier for the old folks to use, so that's what we did. So give me a holler, and I'll send you this, and then you're kind of on your way. Thank you much. Bye bye.